All right, we'll start. Mm. Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavidvaram Satgurum Brahmavidvaram. We'll start with Gita Dhyanam, the short version. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം Amba Tvamanusandathami Bhagavad-gite Bhavadveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullarvindayatapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Tailapurnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikaparnaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gita-mritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gita-mrutam Mahat Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Hari Om. Hari Om, good morning everybody. We are studying Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 and we are still in the section on Devi Sampat that began in the first 3 verses. Chapter 16 is on Devi and Asuri Sampat, the divine and Asuri wealth, the qualities that are considered positive and the qualities that are considered negative. Positive qualities are all values that we are familiar with, and sometimes we take it for granted, but values are instrumental in helping us to align our actions, our way of life, and all of our thoughts with our goal. So this chapter of Daivasati Sampat comes right after the essence of knowledge is given, because the knowledge does not take root without the right mind. You will never find somebody who is greedy or jealous and realized. Yesterday we were seeing how, because they see everyone like they see themselves. So if someone gets something, he is happy like he got it. There is no room for jealousy because there's no room for divisive vision. So we don't have that vision, but we practice the values with the hope that it brings integration in our life and that it takes us closer to that goal of seeing oneness everywhere. So, another thing is, we use the word values and virtues interchangeably a lot, but there's a slight technical difference. A value is a quality that you value. like truthfulness and lack of anger, and this whole list that we're seeing. A virtue is that same value when it is now practiced by me. So we're studying the values and we hope that we can convert them into virtues. Meaning, we don't want them to remain theoretical. We actually want them to be part of our life. Right? So let us chant verses 1, 2, and 3, and then we will continue. Together we can chant it. Abhayam sattva samshuddhihi jnanayogavyavastitihi danam damascha yajnascha svadhyayastapa arjavam ahimsa satyamakrodha tyagashantirapeishunam daya bhuteshvalo luptvam mardavam hrirachapalam तेजक्षमा शौचम् अद्रोहो अद्रोहो नातिमानिता भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत. Are you all there? Can you all hear me? Okay. It keeps telling me that my internet is frozen. We've seen so many wonderful qualities, and where we left it off last, we were seeing akrodha, or the quality of the absence of anger. And we had started to talk about it last week, but we will pick up right there now. Actually, Tikaji started the class. Before class started, he asked, is there any room for anger? Is it ever okay for us to be angry? And you may all have your own opinions and you may all have your own experiences in life where you feel like anger is necessary. But I will tell you something. The honest answer is there's absolutely no room for anger. And the reason that we think anger is okay sometimes is because of the way we define it. We say it is okay to be angry because we feel anger is necessary for other people. But really speaking, Gurudev had a nice sentence that summed this whole thing up. He said we should use anger like we have it as a key in our pocket. And when it is necessary, you take it out and you use it. And then when you're done, you put it back in your pocket. There is a difference between being angry and using anger when it is needed. Using anger means pretending there is anger is something you need to do sometimes with little children or even with big people, to show them that something is not right. But at that time, it is not happening as an expression of helpless outburst. It is purposefully happening and it doesn't affect you in the same way that real anger affects you. So you use anger when anger is needed, but you do not get angry. This quality of akrodha that Bhagavan Sri Krishna is talking about is a quality where we are not being overtaken by anger and losing our personality. The test of whether we're developing the capacity to control our anger is how much time it takes to reduce it. How much time it takes for us to come back to balance having gotten angry. Because we don't want in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains how when a desire is not fulfilled, it turns into anger. And that anger, in a whole ladder of fall, ends us up where we lose our discrimination, and loss of discrimination leads to as though death. Our intellectual capacity totally perishes. So the fundamental solution is to reduce desires, because once a desire is there and it's not fulfilled, it's going to lead to anger. That is the fundamental solution, but it is easier said than done. You think about anger a little bit more and you see why it is not something you want. The problem with anger is that when it is suppressed, it is a problem for our mind. When it is expressed, it is a problem for people. So we cannot express it, but we also cannot suppress it. We have to neutralize it. We have to be able to manage it. So the question becomes how to manage it. Well, the first thing is, in no particular order, when our expectations are less, then our desires are thwarted less. And when our desires are thwarted less, then we get less angry. But this is not easy. So, if we have expectations, then we find the strength to suffer unfavorable situations where our expectations are not met. So, we will not get as angry when they come. The other thing is that we should remember that actually our greatest enemy is anger. Because anger postpones our moksha. It postpones our happiness because anger stifles our viveka. And when viveka is stifled, then knowledge is postponed. And when knowledge is postponed, moksha is postponed. And what we really want is moksha, is not to put somebody else in their place, right? So the best thing to do is to get angry with your own anger. And remember that I don't want to be angry, you know? Um, the other tip is to stop justifying. You know, he did this, therefore it was warranted. If we justify, we will never get rid of it. And here's a test to know if you actually have the capacity. If you were told that every time that you get angry, you're going to lose a fistful of hair, right? Or you're going to put on 10 pounds of weight, or you're going to lose 5 years of life, or you have to give $5,000, not Guyana dollars, US dollars, to Trump and Musk. If you're not on Team Trump Musk, then you will get angry less, right? Because um, you understand the value of the things that you will be losing if you get angry. Like that, you realize anger is actually something we have the capacity to control. So, Guruji says actually that we do not realize that the effects of anger are even worse than physical death. And getting angry for the faults of others is actually punishing ourselves. So, number one, reduce desires, fundamental solution. Number two, objectify your anger. You know, realize that this anger is in me, but it doesn't mean I have to be angry. I see anger coming, so I cannot be the anger. But it requires great awareness. And when you can catch that anger as it's rising, you save yourself from so much trouble. Now, anger is a big topic, but I think because we had talked about it last week and there's more doing and less talking in this field of anger, think a little bit about it. And if there are more questions, we can talk about it next week as well. Okay, the next quality is Tyaga. I'm going to just keep checking that you all can hear me. Can you all still hear me? Now you're all frozen, so I actually don't know if you can hear me.
Are you? Yes.
Okay, good. The next quality is Tyaga. Tyaga, Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharya says, is sannyasa, is renouncing. So what are we renouncing? Imagine I have your phone and you ask me back for your phone. And I say, here, I renounce your phone. Well, that's not really renouncing because you can only renounce something that belongs to you. You can't say you're renouncing something that belongs to someone else, right? So, what is it that we can actually renounce in this world? Well, we can renounce our unwanted, undesirable, thoughts and actions that block our evolution, that renounce that obstruct our evolution. You know, we can renounce the lower for the higher. Now you hear people saying things like, I'm going to renounce the world, right? But you actually cannot give up the world. Where will you go? Wherever you renounce the world, you're still going to be in the world, no? And even our body is made up of the same five elements as the world. So we cannot give up the world really, but we can give up our ignorance and our wrong notion. And I tell you right now, we have the quality, we have the capacity to renounce. We renounce all the time. The only thing is we renounce lower things for higher things. Like we renounce water for sweet drinks. We renounce healthy food for junk food. We renounce studying for scrolling. We renounce better things for lower things all the time. So the journey here is to switch from renouncing higher things to renouncing lower things. And renouncing is not something that is painful. It happens automatically as we evolve. You know, like a child automatically gives up a pacifier if their friends start to laugh at them if they're too old. You know, or people who understand that it is not good to have sugar first thing in the morning, they will give up that sugar in their coffee. You know, once they've developed a conviction that is not good and that I will get greater health as a result of this action. The thought of renouncing feels hard for us because we go to satsang and we hear how we're supposed to renounce A, B, C, all these things. So it seems daunting. But of course, it should feel daunting because that is like trying to open a flower bud that has not yet bloomed. You know, it's going to take time to renounce all the things that we're supposed to renounce. But we have to start somewhere. And the best place to start is right here in our values, in trying to renounce our negativities, the negative habits, our bad values, and replace them with good ones. Then we try to renounce selfish desires for selfless desires. We try to renounce our fruit of action, attachment to the fruit of action. And finally, we have to try to renounce the doership that we have itself, right? And then we have to give up the one who is also giving. This is the whole journey of renunciation, but it starts by trying to renounce our bad habits. Simple thing to renounce. Okay. Next quality is Shanti. Shanti, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya explains as Shama, which is mastery over our mind. We should be able to maintain a calm, quiet mind, which is free from agitation and craving. Because only if the mind is peaceful can there actually be happiness, clarity, and understanding. Now, in our Shastras, this quality of peace of mind is explained to be our most precious possession. Because, some people think in satsang, you might agree, yes, peace of mind is our most precious possession. But then you go out into the world, and that is not our actual experience. There are so many things in this world that we think are our most precious possession, right? But this peace of mind is our most precious possession, and it is what will allow us to even enjoy what we currently call our most precious possessions. Because only when there is peace will there be ananda. Those two things go together, right? And it's not about having mastery over our mind when things are good, but rather, even in the midst of factors that are disturbing inside and outside, we're supposed to be able to find peace. How to develop peace? Well, the ultimate Shanti will only come when we know our true self. Supreme peace is one of the goals, is one of the results of meditation, Bhagavan was explaining. Because As long as we think we're the mind, we can never have total peace. The nature of the mind is chanchalam, right? But at least relative peace we can have when we give up attachments and wrong notions. So we try to develop this mastery of mind and peace of mind. One, you can respond instead of reacting. You stop yourself when you're going to respond to, when you're going to react. Say, no, 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 I have to respond. And you try to gain composure over your mind and bring your whole personality in your response. That will slowly help us to develop that mastery over our mind. The other thing is we should just remember that our peace is our most precious possession. So when you have something that is really precious, you don't just give it away to just anybody for no reason. Why will I give away my peace to just anyone for just anything? I am going to hold on to my peace because for me, that peace is more important than giving somebody a piece of my mind. So I hold on to my peace the way I hold on to my precious possessions. When you're in the airport and you hold on to your passport, like everything else is okay, but my passport and a little bit of money I cannot let go of, You hold it close to you, you hide it sometimes, you find a place to keep it. That is how we should be protecting our peace of mind. Okay. Next quality is apeshanam, non-gossiping. Gossiping, Paishanam, means talking unpleasant things about somebody to somebody else, whether it is real or not. And we love it. In fact, if there's nothing to gossip about, we feel like there's nothing to talk about. You know, there's a joke about how if everybody is at the meeting, well, the meeting will be very boring because there's nobody that you can talk about, you know? But that is quite different from the description Tulsidashi gives about Sadhu Charita. In Ramayana at the very beginning, he talks about how a sadhu is someone who is like cotton. And one of the things that he does is he hides or veils the defects of others. You know, um, they hide others' defects. You will never hear a great person gossiping about another person. Why will someone want to gossip? Well, one, it is entertainment. Two, putting somebody down somehow makes them look better in their own mind. I don't know how, right? Um, but there's a saying that a person who talks behind someone's back is worse than a snake because snake poisons the one who bites, but this person who gossips spreads poison to everybody who listens. So there's no space for gossiping as we try to become more spiritual. How to practice? Well, one is you just refuse. And if it's not nice, don't say it, right? And one of the things that you can do is remember Manthara and KK. KK had said no to Manthara when Manthara had first started talking about Bhagavan Sri Ram and Dashratha and Kausalya. She said, no, 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 no. Manthara, you don't know what you're talking about. But Manthara kept going on and on and on. And eventually, she struck the chord that moved KK. So you think you won't be susceptible to gossiping. A little bit of gossip, what harm will it do? But KK was such a great queen. And she loved Bhagavan Sri Ram the most. And in the midst of Manthara's negativity and gossiping, even she was moved. And look at the impact that that thing had. Right? So you can never tell yourself a little bit of gossip won't do anything. Just think of Manthara and KK at that time. A little bit of gossip is never a little bit of gossip. A little bit of gossip leads to a lot of gossip, right? So, like that, we tell ourselves and we put it out of our minds. This topic will come again in Vak Tapas, where Bhagavan is going to teach us in chapter 17 how to check what we're saying before we say it. So, we'll see more about this then. Next quality, Daya Bhuteshu. This class is really hard for me because everybody is frozen, so I don't know if you're listening or usually I see your smiling faces and I take it as acknowledgement for continuing. But here I'm staring at frozen faces today.
We're hearing you,
Daya
Janji.
Bhuteshu. Okay, good. As long as you're hearing me, we're good to go. Daya Bhuteshu is compassion for all beings. And it's not Daya Manusheshu, it's Bhuteshu, meaning not just for human beings, but all beings. Now, some people feel it is easier to have compassion for other beings than human beings somehow, you know, because our expectations of humans are just so much. They ought to know better, they ought to be better. But if they are not, it must be because there's some reason, right? And we have the capacity to have compassion if we understand the reason. And I've given this example so many times. If you've been in satsang with me, you've heard it. If you see somebody walking in front of you at peak traffic time, like peak rush hour time, walking extremely slowly, and everyone else is trying to rush home, you wonder, well, what is wrong with this person? Why are they strolling? Let them walk quickly. Let everything move, you know? At near Union Station at 5 p.m. is not the time you want to see someone walking slowly. But then you realize, you cut that person, you try to move ahead, and you realize that person has a visual impairment. At that time, all the frustration that you had with them goes away, and that frustration metamorphosizes into compassion. And you feel bad that you felt that way about them. You know, it's the exact same thing for the inside. Someone doing something means they have a mental limitation because of which they are the way they are. And if I may not be able to see their mental limitation, at least I can appreciate that there must be a mental limitation because of which they're acting in the way they're acting. So that thought should enter my mind to try to temper the frustration that I have that is making me lose compassion. That is with humans. Then with animals. You know, we're supposed to have compassion for animals too. And I tell you, we were walking around in the village every day. And on our walk, we one time saw a person beating a dog really badly, right? And that person in that house, every morning they play bhajans, right? Every morning, like 6 a.m., loud bhajans blasting. And there they are down like a few steps out of where the bhajans are playing, beating their dog. It means being a religious person doesn't necessarily make you compassionate. It is not just a feeling that you're supposed to have, it is something that is supposed to be accompanied by action. And so we're supposed to have compassion for people, compassion for animals, compassion for plants, even, you know? And compassion requires actively not trying to make the other person or the other being suffer. Sometimes that compassion is expressed simply by not getting angry. Means I am not going to express my frustration, and that is my way of expressing compassion, right? When people talk about compassion for animals, someone might say, no, 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 this is beyond me, because I am not vegetarian. Our rishis are very real, and they acknowledge that there will always be people who eat animals right now. Because the tongue is such a powerful thing that the person may not be able to stop overnight. They may intellectually be able to appreciate that it is beneath human dignity and it is not ideal, but the tongue is so strong what to do. Even such a person has the capacity to find creative ways to start practicing compassion for animals by refusing to buy things that are made on other animals' suffering, like snake skin and making bags and cosmetics from animal products. So there are ways to be creative to find compassion in your heart for animals. And the sentiment behind it is, I don't want them to go through any kind of suffer. You find how you can have compassion by wanting to, you imagine if that was you, how you would want to be treated, and that is how you treat them. Okay, aloluptvam. Aloluptvam means non-craving of senses, but that sounds very similar to sense control, to Dhamma, right? Aloluptvam is non-craving of senses in their presence, specifically in their presence. With Dhammaha or sense control, they may not be around. You may have a desire to eat something or see something that is not in front of you, and then you have to have control to stop yourself from going to get it. Aloluptvam is where that thing is in front of you now. For example, imagine a kid in a candy shop. Right? You cannot stop that child from going crazy, being like, I want this, I want this, I want this. That is the feeling you get for loluptvam. Unrestrained indulgence in the presence of the sense objects is loluptvam. Adults have this too. When food is served, they cannot wait 2 minutes to say Brahmarpanam. They cannot wait 2 minutes for everybody to get food. They start eating already. Or if they're carrying their plate from the kitchen to the dining table because you've not served food on the table, you take it from the kitchen, or you're taking food in line and then going to sit. On the way to their seat, they start to eat. Immediate indulgence means you cannot wait when those sense objects are in your presence. This is loluptvam. The opposite is aloluptvam, where you have to find a way to not crave the senses, the sense objects, while they're there themselves. Right? So how to control this? Well, one, we have to use our dhamma, our sense control. We have to use our shama. Then we also have to use viveka. Remember that true freedom actually comes from intelligent self restraint, not from eating and doing what we want when we want. Right? The other thing is, if you have a greater goal, you will not have time for this kind of sense indulgence. So find a greater goal and distract your mind until it develops the quality. And if you want to experiment with aloluptvam, go shopping in a department where you love those things. If it is technology you love, go to the technology department. If it is clothes you love, go to the clothes department. Whatever store you like, whatever things you like. And you look at all the things there and tell your mind whether it is true or not. I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. And watch your mind and how it responds, you know? Or if you don't want to go out, well, you just take up your phone and you open Amazon and you start to browse the section that is recommended for you. And each thing you tell, I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. I'm happy without that. And see if your mind actually means it. And do it until you mean it, That is aloluptvam. Then mardhavam. Mardhavam is a state of mind of gentleness. Daya bhuteshu was for people and beings. Here we're talking about gentleness with things also. We had watched this movie called Peaceful Warrior. And in that movie, the protagonist takes off his shoes and kicks them off in a very messy way. And the person who's going to become his teacher, he just looks at those messy shoes. Means respect for all things also. And as a result of that respect, we act gently with them. Guruji says that the way we take care of inert objects reveals the state of our mind. Because a person with these great qualities actually feels like everything is equally important. you know? And so it comes out in a person's face, their eyes, their speech, the way they move around in this world. So, how to practice? You know, when you value something, you are really careful with it. Have you seen a child playing with a new toy that they really like? They're so careful with it. I just heard a story, true story, about a 3-year-old on his birthday. He was having a birthday party and his friends came over. And one child started to play with one of his toys. But the child was playing with the toy wrongly. You were supposed to use it, not sit on it. And this child went to sit on that toy. So this birthday boy told his friend, you know, you can't sit on it, you have to play with it. And that child didn't listen. So this 3-year-old birthday boy, he thought. He went outside of the room, and in 2 seconds, he came back into the room. And he told that other child, your father is calling you. That father wasn't calling him, but he just thought to say, if I tell him this, then he'll leave this toy and he'll go, you know? So, I mean, that was done out of attachment that I want my thing to be used gently. But the sentiment is that is how we should feel to use all things. You know, they should be used gently. If you see people opening gifts, some people will open it so gently, and others will tear the box also by mistake. You know how, have you ever torn open an envelope and torn the letter by mistake? That is how money gets torn, actually. You know, people recklessly open things and then they tear their money. Anyways, this sentiment of gentleness is easily born when we start to see divinity in all things. And when we realize that everything is divine and special and has a place. Before Vedanta taught this to me, Disney taught this to me. I don't know if you have all watched Pocahontas, but it is one of the Disney movies that we had on VHS, so we would watch it over and over again because back in the day there was no Netflix. So whatever you had, you would watch again and again. And there's a song in that movie, and the lyrics just were so powerful. They stuck in my mind. I haven't watched it for so long, and I still remember. She says, you think the only people who are the people who look and think like you, but I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. This native person is telling to the colonial who has come, like that. That is the sentiment of having the capacity to be gentle with everything because you realize the value that it has, right? Okay. Modesty. Rihi. Rihi is modesty or shame. Society is taught to not have shame, but actually that is not good. You know, a sense of shame is important to have. Shame specifically in doing something that is inappropriate or immoral. For example, if there's an elderly person around, you don't smoke in front of them if they don't want you to, you know? Or if there's a sadhu around, you don't come and eat meat in front of them. Or in certain communities, there's a standard of modest dressing. You don't say, well, I have freedom to wear whatever I want, you know? You wear the appropriate clothing based on the environment in which you're in. That is called rihi. That is called modesty. Versus wearing what I want, eating what I want, acting what I want because I have freedom. You know, modesty shows our consideration for others. The other way to see this is being embarrassed when we are praised too much in front of other people. Because we understand that the praise doesn't belong to us. One lady made bhiksha for Puja Gurudev, and she was waiting for a compliment. And so finally she asked Gurudev, Gurudev, how is the food that I cooked? And Gurudev looked at her, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact lines. But Gurudev looked at her and said, did you make the vegetables and the spices, or did you just put them together? Something along those lines, means you just assembled something with things that already existed, and then you say, I made it, you know? Um, so the person who understands the world as it is realizes that I don't deserve this praise, you know? So the way to um, practice this is to start to see how much others have done and how little I have done to not be able to take that praise. Also, when we're giving dana, we talked about dana before. When we're giving dana, we're supposed to give dana with rihi, with this modesty, right? Now, someone might say, well, what about acknowledging your talents? In this world, you have to big up your talents and all of that. Look at Arjuna, his confidence and his talent. It translated into action. It didn't translate into ego. You know, everybody knew how great he was without him having to say he was great. And the one time that he had really big ego about his talent, Bhagavan found a way to make sure that that ego was crushed in Mahabharata. Having great talents speak your talents speak for themselves when you have the right bhava. So you don't need to worry. Okay? Okay. Next one is achapalam. Achapalam is not having chapalam, not having fickleness or unsteadiness of mind. What that is one moment you're doing something and then another moment you want to do something else. So your mind is here and then your mind wants to go somewhere. It cannot make up its mind where it wants to be. Achapalam, chapalam is when there is no reason, your body, your mind, your speech, your senses, they're all moving around everywhere, right? Using your hands and your feet and your body for unnecessary things when it is not needed. For example, clicking your pen. You sit there and you're thinking and then your pen is clicking. That's chapalam, that's unnecessary movement. Or shaking your legs, or if you're sitting on the grass, then you pull it out, or flipping between messages and work. Scrolling is a total expression of chapalam. You know, when we only had tapes and CDs, we would listen to those few songs that were on the tape and CD and we would listen to them fully. Now we have access to millions of songs and we cannot even listen to one song properly because before you can hear the main paragraph start, someone has changed the song already, right? Arjuna tells Bhagavan, yesterday we saw, Chanchalam Himana Krishna, this mind is so restless and fickle, you know? How to practice? Actually, this quality of chapalam is encouraged when we multitask. And we have been taught in the world that multitasking is the best thing to do. We proudly put it on our resume. I multitask. We have to realize that multitasking is not efficient. That is one of the things that helps us to develop this quality. See, what happens with multitasking is we might gain a small level of efficiency with practice. You might become more efficient because of that practice of multitasking. As a result, you'll have more time, so you can make more money or whatever with that time. But what happens is we develop a habit of letting our mind jump between two things. The mind is already jumping, and we teach it to jump more. In spirituality, we're trying to make the mind peaceful. We're trying to make it stay in one place. We're trying to make it stay where we want. So when we multitask, it is like giving a hyperactive child more sugar because we can keep them quiet for 2 minutes while we have to make a phone call or something. So we develop a capacity to multitask and we potentially gain a slight efficiency. But as a result, we sell our integration of mind we sell our mental peace, and now we have more time because of the multitasking to spend our life in helpless agitation. Right? So, multitasking is not good for our mental peace, it is not good for our spiritual evolution. And because the mind is always thinking about where joy is coming from, if it thinks joy is in being efficient, so it can gain something, like more time, more money, whatever it is that it values, then it will multitask more. But if we train it to see how that conclusion is wrong and to reevaluate the importance of the peace that comes from not multitasking, it will stop multitasking. You just check this. When you try to do two things, the result is half. That means when you try to do two things at the same time, the result is half. When you do one thing at a time, the result is double because you get the result of the action plus the calmness of mind. And really, what we're looking for at the end of all of that is the calmness of mind. So, one thing you can do is to refuse to have your phone around you when you work. The amount of time and energy you will save and what it will do to the orderliness of your mind is unimaginable. Now, when people hear this, they usually say, teenagers should listen to this and they should learn this. But adults are just as culpable about this nowadays, also, right? So, one of the key things we can do is make sure that our phones are not in our presence when we're doing our work. Okay, now the next quality, tejaha. Now, as I had mentioned before, these qualities are such that we could spend a whole day thinking about one only. But this class is not for studying each one in detail. We're trying to see simply and clearly, in short, what each of these values is so we can start to think about them some more. The next quality is teja. We had chanted this verse. Teja is brilliance or glow. And Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya is so funny. He writes in Bhagavad Gita commentary, not the teja like the glow of your skin. Like anyone will think glow of your skin in Bhagavad Gita. But he clarifies that it's a great inner vigor that gets developed, where every action that is done, that person does it in a lively manner. Versus a teenager, why pick on teenager? Versus even like your spouse or your coworker dragging their feet to do something that you want them to do that they don't want to do. There's no teja, brilliance, or vigor in that action. Okay. This teja, teja expresses in different ways. When somebody is sick and they regain their health, they have a teja now about them. Or when someone has a great character, their teja or their brilliance is different, and you feel like you want to be around them. Someone who has spiritual tej, they also have a different glow about them. Not that their face is shining, but there's something about them that just attracts you to them, you know? Um, how to develop? Well, one is to become a master of your situations. And the other thing is, it is like a light bulb covered with gunk. When you cook in the kitchen, and then, especially if you live in North America and the kitchen is enclosed, so the things that come out of the stove have nowhere to go. If you see the light where your kitchen is, you'll see it covered with a film of oily dirt, right? The process of our spiritual journey itself will help to move that layer of gunk that is hiding our natural teja that is inside. So, for this, what we have to do is just keep trying to grow spirituality and don't worry about trying to get more tejas. It's an outer expression of an inner growth, and we're not supposed to focus on what is seen by others. You don't wake up in the morning and think, I wonder if my teja is more, so other people will feel nicer around me. You just work on your thing, and the teja automatically will come on its own time. The next quality is forgiveness. We had seen akrodha, which is lack of anger. Here, kshama or forgiveness. With akrodha, you're able to quieten the anger towards someone if you've become angry. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya explains that with kshama, even the thought of anger or the thought of revenge does not come. There's no thing to forgive when you're talking about this level of kshama. Like when the teeth bite your tongue doesn't need to think of taking revenge or think I shouldn't punish the teeth. Pain will be there, but there's no thought of breaking the teeth under normal circumstances. You know? and and I tell you, the feeling of forgiveness has nothing to do with external punishment. For example, when a little child pushes or kicks or bites their parent, the parent understands, so there's no thought of anger. But because the child has to learn, there will be an external punishment for teaching. So we shouldn't use a justification that some other person needed a lesson, which is why I needed to get angry. You know, that is independent of the feeling inside. Remember, this whole section is about our mind, our mastery over it, and its peace. It's not about the actions that have to be done in the world. The opposite of forgiveness is revenge. And from that point of view, if you think about it, when is it that you need to forgive someone? It is when you think they have done something wrong to you. Like that child who kicks the mother. A little baby that kicks the mother doesn't feel like they've done something wrong, so there's anything to forgive. But if an adult child kicks their mother, well, that is a big problem. Because now the hurt may be the same physically, but the hurt inside is the thing that is questioned. Now, if you're holding on to hurt inside because of something that someone did, you are stopping your own happiness. It's like you're saying, I don't want to let go of this hurt, so I want to keep hurting, but I also want to be happy. That thing is a contradiction, you know? So the tip here is I want to be happy, therefore I want to forgive. Bhagavan Sri Rama had said nobody is allowed to be upset with KK, you know? So you ask yourself, do I deserve to be miserable for someone else's mistake? And if the answer is no, then forgiveness should come from your heart. Just let it go. And when there is love or identification, forgiveness is needed less because the more you see oneness between you and others, you feel like it's happening to you. And you do not need to forgive yourself. That is a spontaneous thing. Next quality, dhriti. Dhriti is fortitude, patience, the capacity to hold on. It comes up in chapter 18. Bhagavan will talk about sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic dhriti. So we will see it there at that time. But for now, everybody has the capacity to hold on. Like we have the capacity to hold on to our bed in the morning. We have the capacity to hold on to our love for sugar. We have capacity to hold on to so many things. But here we're talking about the capacity to hold on to something good. And we will see that is called sattvic dhriti. To hold on to our ideals and our principles, even if it is difficult, even if we are tired. You know, like Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, when your body and your senses and your mind get tired, but a particular thought comes in your mind by which you find enthusiasm from the inside and you're able to continue what you're doing. It's a special quality of the mind. Like, I don't know if you've tried this, but when you try to exercise alone at home, if you put on a video on YouTube, it is very easy to say, I can't do more. I give up after 10 minutes. But if you go to the gym and you do that same exercise sequence with people, the fact that you're with them, somehow it motivates you to keep going and then you don't stop, right? Dhriti is that capacity in the mind where a challenge has come and I want to give up and I want to stop, but I don't stop. Arjuna, before starting only, he gave up. Yesterday we saw how he just wanted to give up and give up and give up, right? Bhagavan said, meditation is a slow process. You have to keep bringing your mind in. He said, no, 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 Bhagavan, this mind cannot be controlled. Then Bhagavan is like, no, it can be controlled. Then Arjuna's next argument is, well, I don't think I can do it in this life. You please talk to me about what will happen in my next life. you know, anyways, in simple English, dhriti is sticking to what you started and not giving up quickly. It's sticking to it once you have made up the decision to do something good. It is now 8:30. I really wanted to finish. We have this one and we have Shaucham, Adruho, Nati Manita. We have 3 remaining after this. I'll pause so we have time for discussion and then we'll continue and finish this next week. But let me finish Dhriti first. What is it? No, let me give this as discussion. What is it that makes us compromise on our Dhriti? What is it that makes it hard to have Dhriti? Why is it that we cave in the face of challenging situations? So that is question number 1 for discussion. What makes Dhriti hard? What makes it hard, or what makes us cave in the face of challenging situations? Number 1. Number 2, what makes it how can we forgive things that have really, really hurt us by people who are close? I think those 2 questions are enough for 10 minutes of discussion. So I will put you into discussion groups and I'll give you all 10
Sorry,
minutes.
Gina G, could you just repeat the questions, please?
Yeah. So question number 1 is what makes dhriti hard? Means what makes us cave in the face of temptations and challenges and all after we've made up our mind. And the second is what makes it hard to forgive when we have been hurt by someone who's very close. And how can we make it easier, right? So what makes it hard to forgive, but what makes it easy to forgive? Or what are the tips that we can use to forgive? So we're thinking about dhriti and we're thinking about forgiveness. Then, if there's time, y'all can think about anything else that you, one favorite thought from today that you don't want to forget. You can all share with each other also. Okay, I'm going to send you into your groups.